The message arrived while everything else was still in motion. I was halfway through something ordinary, standing in line, scrolling through notes, thinking about nothing in particular, when my phone buzzed. No name in the preview. Just a sentence that didn't ask to be understood. It didn't explain itself. It didn't wait. I read it once. Then again, slower, like pace might change meaning. Around me, people move the way they always do when nothing has happened to them. A door opened. Someone laughed too loud. The world didn't pause to acknowledge that a line had just been crossed. There are messages you argue with. There are messages you deny. And then there are messages that close a door without bothering to check who's on the other side. I didn't reply. Not because I was stunned, because I wasn't. What surprised me wasn't the content. It was the confidence. The assumption that words alone could rearrange reality while everything else stayed the same. By the time I got home, the apartment looked unchanged. Same light through the window. Same half-finished list on the counter. If you walked in cold, you'd think nothing had happened. That's the thing about endings that arrive early. They leave the furniture behind. I sat at the table and opened my laptop, not to write, not to vent, but to look. Accounts. Renewals. Names attached to things I'd stopped noticing because they always worked. I didn't feel angry. I felt late. Like I'd missed a deadline months ago and was only now paying the fee. The first change took less than a minute. The second took 2. None of it made a sound. Later, messages came in as if on a delay. Questions that assumed malfunction. Confusion that expected correction. I read them without answering, not out of spite, but because they weren't actually questions. They were reminders of an arrangement that no one had bothered to define. The tone shifted after that. Polite words. Formal phrasing. The suggestion that things were more complicated than they looked. I asked for everything in writing and waited. What followed wasn't an argument. It was a slow reveal of what had been assumed, of what had never been agreed to, of how much depended on the idea that nothing would ever really change. I didn't announce decisions. I aligned with them. The train sits between stations longer than it should. The doors stay locked. Through the window, tunnel walls blur into that specific darkness that means delay without explanation. Someone near the back sighs loud enough to be heard 3 rows forward. My phone lights up against my leg. The message doesn't fill the screen. 1 line. Maybe 2 if you count the space where punctuation should be. No greeting. No setup. Just words arranged like they've been waiting to be sent and finally got permission. I read it. The letters don't rearrange themselves. I lock the screen, wait 5 seconds, unlock it again. Still there. Around me, people lean into their phones, their paperbacks, their reflections in dark glass. A woman across the aisle adjusts her earbuds. A man in a suit checks his watch twice in 10 seconds. The train hums, but doesn't move. I don't cry. I don't text back. I don't call. My thumb hovers over the keyboard, then stops. There's nothing to ask that the message didn't already answer by not asking anything itself. The train jolts forward. People shift in their seats, resettle bags, go back to whatever they were doing before the interruption. I stay still. We pull into the next station and half the carriage empties. I watch people step onto the platform, check their phones, disappear up the stairs. The doors close. The train moves again. I get off 2 stops later than usual. The platform is less crowded here. I take the long exit, the one that spits you out near the construction site instead of the main road. My legs move without instruction. At the office, I swipe in, nod at security, take the elevator to the 4th floor. My desk looks the way I left it yesterday. Coffee mug with a ring at the bottom. Notepad open to a half-finished list. I sit down, wake my computer, open my email. There are 12 new messages. I read them in order, reply to 3, archive the rest. I correct a typo in a draft I've been sitting on for a week. I update a spreadsheet that didn't need updating. My phone buzzes twice during the morning. I glance at the previews without opening them. One is a calendar reminder. The other isn't. Lunch happens around me. People gather near the windows with containers and complaints. I stay at my desk, eat a granola bar I find in my drawer, drink water from the fountain in the hall. In the afternoon, a colleague stops by to ask about a file. I send it while she's still standing there. She thanks me and leaves. The office gets quieter after 3. I finish what I started and close my laptop earlier than usual. The walk home takes longer because I choose it to. I pass the grocery store where we used to split the list and meet at the register. I pass the dry cleaner that always got the name wrong. I pass the corner where the argument about the restaurant happened, The one that ended with both of us right and neither of us eating. The apartment is exactly as I left it. Keys in the bowl. Shoes by the door. The plant on the counter still leans toward the light. The laundry basket sits full in the corner, whites and colors mixed the way I've asked them not to be mixed. I set my bag down. I take off my jacket. I stand in the kitchen and look at the fridge, at the magnets holding nothing, at the calendar marked with events that assume a future. I don't turn on music. I don't pour a drink. I open my laptop at the table and start a new document. No title, just a list. Streaming services. Utilities. Gym membership. Storage password. Shared calendar. The list grows without effort. I don't write fast, but I don't stop. Some of the accounts are in my name. Some aren't. Some were set up years ago with an email I barely use. I click through dashboards, settings menus, billing pages. I update what I can. I screenshot what I can't. It takes 2 hours. When I finish, 17 things have changed. None of them required permission. My phone lights up on the table. A name I know. A message longer than the first. I read the preview and don't open it. I close the laptop. I take a shower. The water runs hotter than I usually set it, and I let it. When I get out, there are 3 more messages. I leave them unread and get into bed with the lights still on. Morning arrives without ceremony. No alarm, just the light coming in at the wrong angle because I forgot to close the blinds. I reach for my phone out of habit, then stop halfway. 6 messages. I swipe them away without reading and get up. The apartment is quiet in a way that feels new. Not empty. Nothing's missing yet, but lighter. Like the air has more room. I make coffee because my hands need something to do. The machine grinds louder than I remember. I drink it standing at the counter, looking at the calendar on the fridge. Someone's birthday next week. A dentist appointment I made months ago. A reservation for a tasting event that costs too much and requires 48 hours notice to cancel. I open my phone, find the confirmation email, forward it to the restaurant with a short message about a conflict. Send. Delete the calendar entry. The little red dot disappears. My coffee goes cold while I work through the rest. Subscriptions I forgot I was paying for. Renewals set to auto-charge next month. A joint account for utilities that only I seem to fund. I don't close everything. Just the things that assume I'll stay. The phone rings. I let it. It stops, then starts again. I silence it and open my banking app instead. The shared checking account has my name first. I move half of what's there into my personal account. Not everything, just what I've contributed in the last 3 months. I leave enough to cover the rent that's already posted and the internet bill that hasn't. I set up alerts for transactions I'm no longer making. I remove my card from the grocery store app, the pharmacy rewards program, the parking service we use twice. None of it feels vengeful. It feels overdue. My phone vibrates against the counter. A text from a number I don't have saved. Polite. Professional. Asking if there's been some kind of mistake with the accounts. I read it twice. The word mistake sits in the middle like it's holding the sentence together. I don't reply. At work, I'm early. The office is nearly empty. Just the people who come in before the coffee is ready and leave after the lights dim themselves. I like them because they don't ask questions. I open the shared cloud storage. Folders inside folders, most of them mine. Documents I drafted. Photos I uploaded. Files organized by a system I built because no one else would. I don't delete anything. I download what's mine, tax records, medical documents, receipts that have my name alone, and move them to a private drive. Then I remove my access from the shared space entirely. The system asks if I'm sure. I click yes. An email arrives 10 minutes later. Automated. Informing me I've left a shared workspace. I archive it. Lunch is a sandwich I don't taste. I eat it at my desk while sorting through old emails, flagging ones that reference shared plans. A trip we booked. A class we signed up for. A renewal notice for something I didn't agree to renew. I forward the relevant ones to myself and create a folder. I title it with the date and nothing else. In the afternoon, my phone lights up with a call. The same unsaved number from earlier. I decline it. A voicemail appears. I don't listen. By the time I leave, the sun is already low. I take a different route home, one that avoids the places we used to pass without thinking. It's longer, but the streets are emptier. At the apartment, I go straight to the closet. My things are on the left, always have been. I pull out a duffel bag from the top shelf, the one I used before we moved in together. I don't pack yet. I just set it on the floor where it can be seen. The insurance policy is in a drawer in the kitchen. I'm listed as a dependent. I make a note to call them tomorrow and request my own plan. The gym membership is joint. I screenshot the account details and email the front desk about splitting it. The Wi-Fi password is taped inside the router manual. I change it to something random and write it down on a slip of paper I fold into my wallet. My phone buzzes. Then again. Then 3 times in a row. I put it face down on the counter and open my laptop. I start a new document, plain text, and begin listing dates. When the message arrived. When I changed the passwords. When I moved the money. Not for anyone else. For me. The buzzing stops. The apartment settles. I save the document, close the laptop, and sit in the silence until it stops feeling strange. The messages start arriving in clusters. First one at 7 in the morning. Then 2 more before I'm out of the shower. By the time I'm dressed, there are 5, each one phrased like a question but shaped like an accusation. Why isn't the streaming service working? Did something happen to the cloud storage? The grocery account isn't letting me in. I read them while my coffee brews. The tone is confused, not angry yet. Like when you flip a switch and the light doesn't come on and your first thought is the bulb, not the bill. I don't answer any of them. At work, I'm efficient. I close 3 tickets before 9. I respond to emails that have been sitting for days. A coworker asks if I'm feeling okay. I say yes and mean it. My phone vibrates through the morning. I glance at the previews during breaks. The confusion is hardening into something else. The questions are no longer about technical issues. They're about intent. Did you do this on purpose? We need to talk about what's happening. This isn't fair. I leave them unread. Fairness wasn't part of the message I received. I'm just catching up to the terms that were already set. Lunchtime, I step outside. The park across from the office is full of people eating in the weak sunlight. I find a bench away from the crowds and open my phone. There's a voicemail. I press play and hold the phone away from my ear, just far enough that the words blur into tone. Frustration. Disbelief. A request to call back framed as an inevitability. I delete it and block the number. A new message arrives from a different contact. Someone I know but haven't spoken to in months. The text is careful, asking how I am, mentioning they heard things were complicated, offering to help if I need anything. I stare at it. This is how it spreads. Not through facts, but through concern that carries implications. I type a short reply. I'm fine. Thank you. I don't elaborate. Back at my desk, I open the shared calendar one last time. Events are still listed under my name. A dinner reservation. A weekend trip. A reminder to pick up a package. I delete them one by one, then remove myself from the calendar entirely. The system sends a notification to the other account. I know this because my phone buzzes 30 seconds later. The tone shifts after that. The messages stop asking and start explaining. Long paragraphs about misunderstandings. About how things were said in the heat of the moment. About how actions are being taken out of context. I screenshot each one and save them in the folder with the date. One message stands out. It doesn't ask me to reconsider. It asks me to think about what this looks like. How it will seem to other people. What conclusions they might draw. I read it twice. The logic is backwards. It assumes that optics matter more than evidence. That the story is more real than what actually happened. I don't reply to that one either. By evening, a new name appears in my messages. Not someone I know. The tone is different. Polite but formal. Referring to a situation that needs clarification. Suggesting that perhaps there's been a miscommunication that could be resolved with a conversation. I read it carefully. The language is neutral in a way that isn't. It's designed to sound reasonable, to make refusal seem unreasonable. I type a response. Short. Factual. The relationship ended via message on this date. I have documentation. Any further communication should be in writing. I hit send before I can second guess it. The reply comes faster than I expect. More formal now. Asking for copies of relevant documentation. Mentioning that there are shared obligations that need to be addressed. I don't send anything yet. I close the messages and open my email instead. There's a draft I started yesterday. A summary of changes. Accounts closed. Passwords updated. Funds redistributed. I add a line about the request for documentation and save it without sending. My phone rings. The new number. I decline the call and turn off notifications. The apartment feels smaller when I get home. Not physically, but in the way a room changes when you know someone else has been thinking about it. I check the locks. I move the duffel bag from the floor to the bed. I don't pack it yet, but I make a list of what goes in first. The messages continue into the night. Some short, some long. Some asking, some demanding. I let them accumulate, unread, like snow piling against a door I'm not planning to open. The email arrives on a Wednesday, not from a name I recognize. The subject line is vague, recent matter, and the preview shows nothing but a formal greeting. I open it during my morning coffee, expecting spam. It's not spam. The language is careful, measured. It introduces someone as a representative assisting with the resolution of a misunderstanding. It references obligations and commitments without specifying what they are. It suggests that clarification would be in everyone's best interest. There's no threat. That's what makes it feel like one. I read it 3 times, parsing each sentence for what it doesn't say. The word legal appears nowhere, but the structure of the message suggests it's hovering just outside the frame. The tone implies that failure to engage will be noted. I don't reply immediately. At work, I forward the email to my personal account and print a copy. I add it to the folder, now thick enough that the pages don't lie flat. I write the date and time received in the margin. My phone is quiet all morning. Too quiet. Like someone made a decision to route everything through a different channel. Lunch, I eat at my desk and search for the name in the email signature. No website. No professional listings. The email domain is generic. I copy the phone number into a search engine and find nothing. In the afternoon, a follow-up arrives. Shorter this time, noting that the previous message may not have been received. Requesting confirmation of receipt and availability for a brief call to discuss next steps. I reply, 1 line, I received your email. All communication regarding this matter should remain in writing. The response comes within the hour. Professional, understanding, but also firm. It explains that verbal communication is standard practice for resolving ambiguities efficiently. It offers specific time slots for a call. I don't accept any of them. Instead, I draft a longer message. I list the date the relationship ended. I attach a screenshot of the original message, the one that arrived without warning or negotiation. I state that I have complied with all legal obligations and that no shared agreements exist in writing. I reread it 4 times before sending. The reply takes longer this time. 2 days. When it arrives, the tone has shifted. Still polite, but cooler. It acknowledges receipt of my documentation. It suggests that the matter is more complex than I may understand. It references potential shared assets and informal agreements that carry weight regardless of documentation. The phrase informal agreements appears twice. I screenshot the email and add it to the folder. That night, I sit at the kitchen table with my laptop and search for legal aid services. I don't call anyone yet. I just make a list of names and numbers, resources that exist if I need them. My phone buzzes. A text from the mutual friend who reached out last week, asking if I've had a chance to reconsider, mentioning that people are worried, suggesting that maybe I'm not seeing the full picture. I type a reply and delete it, then type another and delete that too. Finally, I appreciate the concern. I'm handling this. The response is immediate. Okay, but if you need to talk, I'm here. I don't answer. Another email arrives the next morning. This one includes an attachment, a document titled Summary of Shared Expenses. It's a spreadsheet, 3 pages, line items for rent, utilities, groceries, subscriptions, amounts attributed to each party, a running total at the bottom that suggests imbalance. I open it and scroll through. Half the entries are accurate. The other half are inflated or include things I never agreed to cover. A gym membership I don't use. A subscription box I never wanted. Meals at restaurants I said were too expensive. I closed the document without downloading it. My reply is brief. I do not recognize this accounting. Please provide receipts and written agreements for any claimed shared expenses. The response comes the same day. Professional disappointment. A suggestion that my approach is unnecessarily adversarial. An offer to discuss the matter with a neutral mediator present. I save the email and don't respond. At work, I'm distracted for the first time. I miss a deadline by an hour. I apologize and submit the work late. My manager says it's fine, but I feel the slip. That evening, I walk home the long way again. The detour is becoming a habit. I stop at a corner store I've never been to and buy a notebook. Plain, no lines. I don't know what I'll use it for yet. At the apartment, I sit on the floor with the folder and the notebook. I write down every request that's been made, every claim, every suggestion that I owe something beyond what was taken in a single message. The list is longer than I expect. I close the notebook and set it on top of the folder. The stack sits on the table, waiting. The call is scheduled for Thursday at 6. I didn't agree to it. I was informed it would happen. The email included a meeting link, a list of participants, and a request to confirm my attendance. I confirmed nothing, but I copy the link into my calendar anyway. Thursday comes. I leave work on time and walk home without detours. The apartment is cold. I turn on a lamp, but not the overhead light. I make tea I don't drink. At 5:55, I open my laptop. The meeting link sits in my inbox like a door I haven't decided to walk through. I click it at exactly 6. 3 faces appear in boxes. 1 I know, 2 I don't. The familiar face speaks first. Calm, rehearsed, thanking me for joining, explaining that this is just an opportunity to clear up confusion, to find common ground. I don't respond. I wait. One of the unfamiliar faces introduces themselves. A friend, apparently. Someone who's known both of us for years and wants to help. The words are warm, but the framing is cold. It assumes I'm the variable that needs adjusting. The third face doesn't introduce themselves. They just nod. The familiar face continues. There's a script. I can hear it in the pacing. An explanation of how the original message was sent during a difficult moment. How it didn't reflect true intentions. How things were said that shouldn't have been said in that way. I listen. I don't interrupt. The friend picks up next, talking about how relationships are complicated, how people make mistakes, how grace is important. The words are directed at me, but they're describing someone else's position. I wait for a question. None comes. Just more explaining. Finally, I speak. Can I share something? The familiar face hesitates, then nods. I don't share my screen yet. I open the folder on my desktop. Find the file. The original message. The one that started this. I want to make sure we're all working from the same information. I say. I share my screen. The message fills the frame. 1 line. Blunt. Final. The timestamp visible. The lack of context deliberate. The boxes go quiet. I don't say anything. I let it sit there. Let them read it as many times as they need. The friend shifts in their box. The unfamiliar third face leans back slightly. The familiar face speaks. That was, context matters. I was upset. I didn't mean. Was this sent? I ask. A pause. Yes, but. Was it retracted? Longer pause. No, but I thought. What did you think? Silence. I stop sharing my screen. The faces reappear, smaller now. I received this message. I say. I responded to it. That's what we're here about. The friend tries to recover, talking about how words can be misinterpreted, how intentions matter, how holding on to one moment isn't productive. I don't argue. I just wait. The third face speaks for the first time. Their tone is different, less warm. What are you asking for? Nothing. I say. Then why are we here? You scheduled this, I say. Not me. The familiar face tries again. Softer now. Asking if we can move past this. Talking about shared history. About what was built together. About how it doesn't have to end like this. It already ended, I say. On this date. In this message. I share my screen again. The message. The timestamp. The friend jumps in. You're being unreasonable. People are allowed to change their minds. About what? I ask. About the relationship. About what they said. The relationship ended when this was sent. I say. I'm not changing my mind about a decision I didn't make. The boxes flicker. Someone's connection lags. The familiar face is quieter now. What about the things we share? The expenses? The plans? What about them? I ask. You can't just walk away from obligations. What obligations? I ask. Show me what I agreed to. Silence again. In writing, I add. The third face speaks. This isn't productive. Then we can end here. I say. The familiar face looks like they want to say more, but the friend raises a hand slightly. A signal I'm not supposed to see but do. Maybe we should take a break, the friend says. Revisit this when everyone's calmer. I'm calm, I say. No one responds to that. The third face exits the call first. Then the friend. The familiar face stays in their box, frozen, staring at something off-screen. I wait. Finally. I didn't think you'd actually do this. Do what? I ask. Leave. I didn't leave, I say. I was left. I'm just not pretending otherwise. The face disappears. The meeting ends. I close my laptop. The tea is still sitting on the counter, cold now. I pour it out and rinse the mug. My phone doesn't buzz the rest of the night. I sit on the couch with the notebook and write down what was said. Not everything, just the parts that tried to rewrite what happened. The apartment is quiet. I leave it that way. The messages resume on Saturday. Different tone this time. Not confused. Not formal. Softer. I miss you. I've been thinking about everything. Can we please just talk? I read them in the morning, still in bed, the light coming in pale through the blinds. The shift is obvious. When authority didn't work, intimacy gets deployed instead. I don't reply. By noon, there are more. Longer now. Paragraphs about memories. About inside jokes. About moments that supposedly meant something. Each one ends with a question that assumes I'll answer. Don't you remember when we? Doesn't that mean anything to you? How can you just throw this away? I put my phone face down on the counter and make breakfast. Eggs. Toast. I eat slowly, looking out the window at the building across the street where someone is watering plants on a balcony. When I pick up my phone again, there's a voice message. I don't listen. I can see the duration. For minutes. Too long to be anything but a narrative I'm supposed to participate in. I delete it. The texts continue through the afternoon. The tone cycling now. Hurt, then angry, then hurt again. Accusing me of being cold, of not caring, of making this harder than it needs to be. One message stands out. You're acting like I'm a stranger. I almost reply to that one. Almost type, you made that choice. But I don't. Sunday morning, a new approach. Practical. Reasonable. We still need to figure out the furniture. What about the deposit on the trip? Can you at least tell me what you want to do about the lease? I screenshot each one. Add them to the folder. The lease is in my name. The furniture is mine, bought before we moved in together. The trip deposit is refundable until next month, and the confirmation email is in my inbox, not shared. I reply to one message. The lease is my responsibility. You're not listed as a tenant. The response is immediate. That's not fair. I've been paying rent. I type, you've been a guest. Then I delete it. I type, I have records of all payments. Then delete that too. Finally, I'm not discussing this via text. 3 dots appear. Disappear. Appear again. Then, fine. When can we meet in person? I don't answer. Monday at work, I'm slow. I start tasks and forget what I'm doing halfway through. A colleague asks if I'm all right. I say I didn't sleep well. It's not a lie. During lunch, my phone rings. I decline it. It rings again. I silence it and leave it in my desk drawer for the rest of the day. When I retrieve it at 5, there are 6 missed calls and a string of texts. You can't ignore me forever. I deserve more than this. After everything I've done for you. That last one sits in the preview longer than the others. I read it 3 times. The statement assumes a ledger that doesn't exist. A running total of contributions that were never requested and can't be cashed in now. I walk home the long way. The detour takes me past a park I've never stopped at. I sit on a bench for 20 minutes, watching people walk dogs and push strollers. No one looks at their phone. At the apartment, there's an envelope taped to the door. No name. Just urgent written across the front in handwriting I recognize. I don't open it in the hallway. I take it inside, set it on the counter, make dinner first. Pasta. Too much salt. I eat half and put the rest in the fridge. The envelope is thin. I open it carefully, as if it might contain something other than paper. It's a letter. Handwritten. 2 pages. The tone is different from the texts. Softer. More personal. It starts with an apology. Not for the message that ended things, but for how I've reacted. For making this difficult. For not being willing to work through this like an adult. The second page lists things. Expenses. Time. Effort. Emotional labor. Each one framed as something I've failed to acknowledge. At the bottom, I just want what's fair. I fold the letter back into the envelope and put it in the folder. That night, I draft an email I don't send. It lists every assumption embedded in the letter, every reframe, every attempt to make my withdrawal the problem instead of the message that caused it. I save it in drafts and close my laptop. My phone buzzes. A text from the mutual friend. I heard you got a letter. Are you going to respond? I stare at it. The speed of information moving through channels I'm not part of. The way my silence is being interpreted and reported. I type, no. The reply comes fast. You're being stubborn. I don't respond. Another message. People are starting to talk. I turn my phone off. Not silent. Off. The apartment is too quiet. I turn on the television, mute it, and watch people move through scenes without sound. After an hour, I turn it off too. I sit at the table with the folder. The stack is thick now. Messages. Emails. Screenshots. The handwritten letter on top. None of it changes what happened. It just documents the distance between what was said and what's being claimed now. I close the folder and leave it there. I find the new place on a Tuesday. It's smaller. 4th floor. No elevator. The landlord shows it to me during lunch and doesn't ask questions when I say I can move in this weekend. The deposit clears by Thursday. I don't tell anyone. Friday after work, I stop at a storage place 2 blocks from the new apartment. I rent the smallest unit they have. The attendant gives me a key and a lock and a clipboard with insurance options I decline. Saturday morning, I'm up before the sun. I pack the duffel first. Clothes, toiletries, documents, things that fit and things that matter. Then I start on boxes. The apartment is quiet. It's been quiet all week. No messages since I turned my phone back on. No calls. Like the silence on my end finally created silence on the other. I work systematically. Books, kitchen items I bought, the lamp from my old place. I don't take anything that wasn't mine before. I leave the furniture because it was always mine to leave. By noon, I have 6 boxes and 3 bags. I carry them down 2 at a time. My car is parked a block away. It takes 4 trips. The storage unit is cold and smells like concrete. I stack everything against the back wall, take a photo with my phone, and lock it. The new apartment is empty when I arrive. Just hardwood and light. I set the duffel in the corner and sit on the floor with my back against the wall. My phone is off. I leave it that way. Sunday, I go back to the old apartment early. The key still works. I let myself in and stand in the doorway for a moment, listening. Nothing. I take pictures of every room. Wide shots. Close-ups of anything that might be disputed later. The furniture I'm leaving. The condition of the walls. The kitchen counter with nothing on it but the plant that was never mine. I pack the rest of my things. Clothes from the closet. Papers from the desk drawer. The charger by the bed. I'm careful not to leave gaps that look like accusations. In the kitchen, I write a note. Plain paper. Black pen. I've moved out. Keys are on the counter. Rent is paid through the end of the month. Utilities are in your name as of yesterday. I don't sign it. I leave the keys next to the note. I take one last look at the plant, still leaning toward the window, and close the door behind me. The drive to the new place is short. I unload the last of my things and stack them next to the others. The apartment echoes when I walk. I don't unpack yet. I sit on the floor and turn my phone on. It takes a minute to load. Then the messages start coming in. 12 from the last 2 days. I don't read them. I open my contacts and scroll to the familiar name. I don't block it. I just turn off notifications for it specifically. Then I open my email and send a message to the landlord of the old place. Short. Professional. Informing them that I've vacated early and that the remaining tenant can be reached at the number on file. I copy myself and send. By evening, my phone is buzzing again. Not messages now. Calls. 3 in a row from the familiar number. Then 1 from the mutual friend. I let them all go to voicemail. I don't listen. Monday, I go to work from the new apartment. The commute is different. 10 minutes shorter. Different coffee shop. I stop and get something I've never ordered before. At my desk, I update my address in the system. I change my emergency contact. I remove myself from the shared cloud storage I forgot I was still listed on. Lunchtime, my personal email has 2 new messages. One from the landlord, confirming my notice and asking if there's a forwarding address for the deposit. I reply with the new address. The second is from an unfamiliar account. The subject line, urgent, need to reach you. I don't open it. I mark it as spam and block the sender. In the afternoon, a text comes through from a different mutual friend. Someone I haven't heard from in over a year. Hey, heard you moved. Everything okay? I type, everything's fine. Thanks for checking. The response, let me know if you need anything. I don't reply. That evening, I unpack for the first time. Not everything. Just enough. Plates. A pot. Sheets for the bed I don't have yet. I eat dinner standing at the counter, looking out at a street I don't recognize. My phone stays on the charger in the other room. I hear it buzz twice, but don't check. Later, I lie on the floor with a blanket and stare at the ceiling. The light from the street comes in orange through the blinds. The sounds are different here. Cars instead of voices. A siren in the distance that fades quickly. I don't feel relieved. I don't feel victorious. I just feel accurate. Like I've finally aligned my location with the reality that's been true for weeks. I fall asleep there, on the floor, still dressed. In the morning, I wake up to silence. No buzzing. No calls. Just the sound of someone upstairs walking across their apartment, starting their day. I stay on the floor a little longer, listening. The messages find new angles. It's been a week since I moved, and the tone has shifted again. Not soft, not formal, desperate in a way that sounds like anger. You can't just disappear. People are asking questions. You're making me look bad. I read them in the morning while the coffee brews in the new kitchen. The last one sits in the preview longer than the others. The complaint isn't about the ending. It's about the optics. I delete the thread without archiving. At work, an email arrives from HR, routine, asking me to confirm my updated address for tax documents. I fill out the form and submit it. My phone buzzes 30 seconds later. A text from a number I don't recognize. We need to talk about your responsibilities. I block it. Another number appears an hour later. Ignoring this won't make it go away. I block that one too. By lunch, there's a voicemail from the familiar number. I play the first 5 seconds. The voice is strained, talking about obligations and decency and how I'm acting like none of this matters. I delete it. In the afternoon, the mutual friend calls. I let it ring. They text instead. You need to at least respond. This is getting out of hand. I type. I've responded to everything that requires a response. The reply is immediate. That's not what I mean, and you know it. I don't answer. That evening, I stop at the grocery store near the new apartment. It's smaller than the one I used to go to. The aisles are narrower. I buy things I need and nothing else. At the checkout, my phone buzzes. I ignore it. The cashier asks if I found everything okay. I say yes. It's the longest conversation I've had all day. Back at the apartment, I unpack the groceries and sit on the floor with my laptop. There's an email waiting. The subject line, final attempt at resolution. I open it. It's long, formal again, written by someone else, or at least edited by someone else. It lists grievances like evidence, times I was unresponsive, decisions made without consultation, a lack of willingness to engage in good faith. At the bottom, a request, meet in person one last time to settle this properly. I close the laptop without replying. My phone rings. The familiar number. I decline it. It rings again immediately. I turn off the ringer. The texts come in silently now. I watch the screen light up on the counter. 1, 2, 5. I stop counting. I take a shower and stay under the water until it starts to cool. When I get out, there are 14 new messages. I don't read any of them. I put the phone in a drawer and close it. Tuesday, I eat lunch outside. A bench near the office that faces a construction site. I watch workers move steel beams into place with a crane. The precision is calming. My desk phone rings when I get back. The receptionist transferred a call. I pick up without thinking. Finally, the familiar voice says. I don't hang up. I don't speak. Are you there? Yes, I say. We need to meet. This has gone on long enough. No, I say. You don't get to just decide that. I do, I say. I have a right to talk to you. You don't, I say. Silence on the other end. Then, you're being cruel. I'm being clear, I say. This isn't you. It is now, I say, and hang up. I unplug the desk phone. My hands are steady. That night, I'm at the new apartment when someone knocks on the door. I'm not expecting anyone. I don't move. The knock comes again. Louder. I walk to the door and look through the peephole. The familiar face is standing in the hallway, looking at their phone, then at the door. I step back. I don't make a sound. Another knock. Then a voice, muffled through the door. I know you're in there. Your car is outside. I stay still. We need to talk. Just 5 minutes. I don't respond. Please. I wait. The hallway goes quiet. I hear footsteps moving away, then stopping, then moving again, slower. I stay by the door for 10 minutes after the sound fades. When I finally move, I check the peephole again. Empty. I sit on the floor with my back against the wall and pull out my phone. I open the camera and scroll back to the photos from the old apartment. The empty rooms. The keys on the counter. The note. I don't send them to anyone. I just look at them, reminding myself of what's already done. My phone buzzes. A text from the familiar number. That was unfair. I drove all the way here. I type. I didn't invite you. The response comes fast. You can't treat people like this. I type. You ended this. I'm just not pretending you didn't. 3 dots appear. Disappear. Appear again. Then, I didn't mean it like that. I don't reply. I block the number. Another text comes through from a different contact. The mutual friend again. You really wouldn't even open the door? I stare at the message. The speed of information. The network that moves faster than I can. I type, no. The response, you've changed. I read it twice. Maybe they're right. Maybe I have. I don't tell them that change wasn't the goal. Accuracy was. I turn off my phone and leave it off. 3 weeks pass without contact. I settle into the new apartment. I buy a bed frame, a small table, 2 chairs I don't need, but like the look of. The space starts to feel less temporary. Work is steady. I meet deadlines. I eat lunch with colleagues twice. I say yes to coffee once and no the second time. Both feel fine. The silence holds until a Saturday in March. I'm at the hardware store, looking at curtain rods, when I see the car, parked across the street. Engine off. The familiar silhouette in the driver's seat. I don't react. I finish what I'm doing, pay for the rods, and walk to my car 2 blocks away. I don't look back. At the apartment, I carry the rods upstairs and set them by the window. I make lunch. I eat it slowly. My phone rings. A number I blocked weeks ago, calling from a different phone. I answer without thinking. Don't hang up, the voice says immediately. I don't say anything. I just want to talk. Face to face. No one else. Just us. No, I say. 5 minutes. Anywhere you want. Public if that makes you comfortable. No, I say again. Please. I need closure. You had closure, I say. You sent it. That's not fair. I hang up. The phone rings again. I decline it. It rings 3 more times before stopping. A text appears. I'm not going away until we talk. I block the new number and turn off my phone. Sunday morning. I'm at the coffee shop near the apartment when the familiar face walks in. Not a coincidence. The timing is too precise. I'm at a corner table with a book I'm not reading. The door opens, and there's no surprise in the expression that follows. I don't stand. I don't look away. The familiar face approaches slowly, stops a few feet from the table. Hi. I don't respond. Can I sit? No, I say. Please. Just for a minute. Leave, I say. I drove an hour to get here. I didn't ask you to. A pause. The coffee shop is half full. A few people glance over. No one stares. I just want to understand. The familiar voice says, quieter now. Why you're doing this? You know why? I say. I don't. That's why I'm here. I close the book. I look up. You ended it. I accepted that. That's all this is. But it doesn't have to be like this. It already is, I say. We can still be civil. We can still. No, I say. We can't. Why not? I don't answer. The question assumes a foundation that doesn't exist. The familiar face pulls out the chair anyway. Sits down without permission. Don't, I say. I'm sitting. You can leave if you want. I stand. I pick up my book and my coffee. I walk to the counter and ask the barista if there's a back exit. She points to a hallway near the restroom. Behind me, I hear the chair scrape. Footsteps following. I turn. Stop. The familiar face stops. We're in the hallway now. Away from the tables. The music is quieter here. I just need to know if there's a chance, the voice says. Any chance at all? No, I say. Not even. No, I say again. None. The face changes. Hardens. You're being selfish. Okay, I say. You're punishing me. I'm protecting myself. I say. From what? I'm not a threat. You made a decision. I say. I'm living with it. That's all this is. I made a mistake. That's not my problem. I say. The words land harder than I intend. The familiar face flinches. You really don't care at all, do you? I don't answer. Caring isn't the issue. Boundaries are. I thought you were different, the voice says. I thought you were better than this. Better than what? I ask. Than someone who just walks away. You walked away first, I say. I'm just not following you. I leave through the back exit. The alley smells like grease and cardboard. I walk quickly, not looking back, until I reach the street. My car is parked 3 blocks away. I get in and sit for a minute before starting the engine. My phone is still off. I leave it that way. At the apartment, I install the curtain rods. It takes longer than it should. I strip a screw and have to start over. My hands are less steady than they were an hour ago. When I finish, I close the curtains and sit in the dim light. I don't turn my phone back on until Monday morning. 32 messages. I delete them without reading. 7 voicemails. I delete those too. 1 email stands out. From the mutual friend. Subject, you need to stop. I don't open it. I archive it instead. At work, I'm quieter than usual. A colleague asks if everything's okay. I say I'm tired. It's true enough. Lunch, I eat at my desk. My phone stays in my bag. In the afternoon, a text comes through from a new number. This isn't over. I read it once. Then I screenshot it and add it to the folder. I don't reply. I don't block it. I just let it sit there, unacknowledged, like all the others. That night, I cooked dinner in the new kitchen. Pasta again. I'm getting better at the salt. I eat at the small table, looking at the curtains I hung. They don't quite reach the floor, but they block the light. My phone is on the counter, face down, silent. I leave it there and wash the dishes by hand. The water is too hot, but I don't adjust it. April arrives without announcement. The new apartment has a rhythm now. I wake up before the alarm. I make coffee in a pot that's only mine. I leave at the same time each day and take the same route to work. The messages have slowed. Not stopped, but slowed. 1 or 2 a week instead of a dozen a day. I don't read them anymore. They go straight to a folder my phone creates automatically. I check the count sometimes. 47, 53, 61. I don't open the folder. At work, I'm assigned to a new project. Something that requires focus and doesn't leave room for distraction. I'm grateful for it. I stay late twice and don't mind. A colleague invites me to a group dinner. I say yes before I can think of a reason not to. We go to a place with loud music and shared plates. I talk about the project. Someone asks where I live now. I tell them. No one asks why I moved. I sleep better. Not perfectly, but better. Whole nights without waking. Mornings without that feeling of forgetting something urgent. The folder on my laptop hasn't been opened in weeks. I don't delete it. I just stop looking. One Saturday, I run into someone from the old building. We rode the elevator together a few times. They ask if I still live there. I say no. They nod and talk about the rent increase. We part without exchanging numbers. I go to a bookstore and buy 3 books. I read one that weekend and start the second. I don't finish it, but I don't feel guilty about it either. My phone rings on a Tuesday. The familiar number, calling from yet another phone. I decline it out of habit. No voicemail follows. A week later, the mutual friend sends a text. I think you should know, people have stopped asking. I read it twice. I'm not sure if it's meant as a warning or a relief. I type, okay, then delete it. I type, thanks for letting me know, then delete that too. Finally, I just don't reply. The deposit from the old apartment arrives. More than I expected. I transfer it to savings and don't think about it again. I buy a couch. Small. Gray. It fits against the wall under the window. I sit on it that evening with a book and realize I haven't sat on the floor in days. Work sends me to a conference in May. 2 days. A hotel I didn't choose. I go to the sessions and take notes I'll probably never read. At the networking reception, I talk to someone about nothing important and exchange business cards we'll both lose. On the flight back, I open my email. There's one from an address I don't recognize. The subject line is blank. I almost delete it. Instead, I open it. It's short. 1 paragraph. An apology. Not for the message that ended things, but for everything that came after. For showing up uninvited. For not respecting boundaries. For making it harder than it needed to be. At the end, I hope you're doing well. I read it 3 times. There's no request. No ask. Just the words, and then nothing. I close the email without replying. I don't delete it. I don't archive it. I just leave it there, unread according to the system, even though I've read it. When I get home, the apartment smells stale. I open the windows and let the air move through. I unpack my bag. I make dinner. I sit on the couch and turn on the television without sound, watching people move through scenes I don't follow. My phone is on the table. No notifications. No calls. I pick it up and scroll through my contacts. I stop at a name I haven't called in months. A friend from before. Before the relationship. Before the apartment. Before any of this. I type, hey, are you free this week? The response comes 10 minutes later. Yeah. Thursday. I confirm and set the phone down. Thursday. We meet at a bar I've never been to. We talk about work and weather and a show we both watched. My friend asks how I've been. I say fine. They don't push. An hour in, they mention they heard I moved. I say yes. They ask if I like the new place. I say I do. Good, they say. You seem better. I don't ask what I seemed like before. We split the bill and hug outside. They say we should do this more often. I agree and mean it. Walking home, I pass the park I sat in weeks ago. There's a couple on the bench I used. They're not talking, just sitting close, looking at their phones. I keep walking. At the apartment, I check my email one last time before bed. The apology is still sitting there, halfway down the inbox. I hover over it. My cursor moves to delete, then to archive, then away entirely. I close my laptop without deciding. In the morning, I don't check. I make coffee. I get dressed. I leave on time. The day is ordinary. Meetings, emails, lunch at my desk. A problem that gets solved by the afternoon. I leave work when I'm finished and take the route I've been taking. The same streets, the same turns. It's not shorter. It's just mine. At home, I heat up leftovers and eat standing at the counter. I wash the dish and leave it in the rack to dry. I sit on the couch with a book I'm halfway through. I read 20 pages and lose the thread twice. I mark my place and set it aside. My phone buzzes. A notification about a bill that's due. I pay it and set a reminder for next month. The folder with the messages still exists. 74 now. I don't open it. I don't delete it either. It's just there, like a fact that doesn't need examining. I turn off the lights earlier than usual. The curtains block most of the street light, but not all of it. I lie in bed and listen to the building settle. Someone upstairs walks across their floor. A car passes outside. The refrigerator hums in the kitchen. I don't think about what's resolved. I don't think about what isn't. I just close my eyes and wait for sleep. It comes eventually.